What's up YouTube? It's Vintage Dollface back with another ranking video. We are here finally back on track with our ranking of all of the generations and each Pokemon individually. Today we are kicking off with Gen 4, the next generation, the Sinnoh region, and also the region that was redone as the ancient Hisui region whenever we got Legends Arceus. So, I do like this generation. It is not my favorite, I will go ahead and say that now, but I really enjoyed Legends Arceus, and so I feel like it gave me a more deeper love of this generation. It really connected me with Sinnoh a lot more than I felt previously in playing Diamond and Pearl. So, yeah, Hisui gave me a lot more love for Sinnoh. And yeah, let's get into these rankings. Turtwig is gonna get a 7. Grotle is gonna get a 7 as well. Torterra is gonna get an 8. Chimchar also gets an 8. Monferno is gonna get a 6 from me. And Infernape is a 7. Piplup gets an 8. Love Piplup. Prinplup is gonna get a 7. Empoleon is gonna get a 6. Starly gets a 5, pretty generic. Staravia gets a 6, a little bit of a cooler design. And Staraptor is also gonna get a 6 from me. Bidoof gets an 8, little cutie pie. Bibarel gets a 6. Kricketot gets a 3. Kricketune gets a 3. I'm not a big fan of that evolution line. Shinx, however, gets an 8. Luxio gets an 8 as well. And Luxray actually gets a 10. My first 10. Bidoo gets a 10 as well. And so does Roserade. So 3 10s back to back. Cranidos gets a 7. Rampardos gets a 6. Shieldon gets a 6. Yeah. Bastiodon actually gets a 9 for me. Burmy gets a 4. Wormadam gets a 4. Mothim, however, gets a 7. Combi gets a 7. Vespiquen gets a 9. That's such a cool design. Pachirisu gets a 7. Weasel gets a 6. Floatzel gets a 7. Cherubi gets a 7. And Cherim gets an 8. So pretty. Shellos is going to get a 7. Gastrodon is going to also get a 7. Ambipom gets a 4. Not a fan. Drifloon gets a 7. Drifblim gets a 6. Buneri gets a 9. And Lopunny gets a 10. Mismagius also gets a 10. I love that Pokemon. Honchkrow gets an 8. Glameow gets a 7. Perugly, they did her so wrong, gets a 4. Chingling gets a 7. Stunky gets a 6. Skuntank also gets a 6. Bronzor gets a 5. Bronzong gets a 6. Bonsly gets a 7. Mime Jr. is going to get a 7 as well. Happiny gets an 8. Little cutie. Chatot gets a 6. Spiritomb gets an 8. Gibble gets a 7. Gabite gets a 7 as well. And Garchomp gets an 8. Munchlax gets an 8. Riolu gets a 9. I love Riolu. And Lucario also gets a 9. My favorite fighting type ever. Hippopotas gets a 6. Hippowdon also gets a 6. Skorupi gets a 7. Drapion gets a 7 as well. Krogunk gets a 7. Toxicroak gets an 8. I really like that evolution line. Carnivine gets a 7. Finneon gets a 7 as well. Lumineon gets a 7. Mantike gets an 8. Little cutie. Snover also gets an 8. Abomasnow gets an 8 as well. Weavile gets a 9. Magnezone gets a 5. Licky gets a 3. I do not like that Pokemon. Rhyperior gets a 6. Tangrowth gets a 5. Electivire gets a 6. It's a pretty cool design. Magmortar gets a 7. Togekiss gets a 9. So cute and powerful. Yanmega gets a 5 from me. Leafeon gets a 10. Here we go with the evolutions again. You know, Glaceon also gets a 10. 10. Gliscor gets a 7. It's very menacing. Mamswine gets an 8. I actually really like that Pokemon. Porygon Z is gonna get a 5. Gallade gets a 10, straight up 10. Probopass gets a 4. Nah, not a fan. Dusknoir gets an 8, however. Frostlass also gets a 10. It's my favorite ice type. Rotom gets an 8. I love that little guy. Here we go with these. Mesprit, I believe. Azelf and Uxie. They're all across the board gonna get a 7. Dialga gets an 8. It's my preference of the two legendaries. Don't come for me. Palkia gets a 5. Heatran gets a 4. Regigigas gets a 5. Giratina gets a 9. Creepy Dark Lord. Cresselia gets a 9 as well. Fione gets a 7. And Manaphy is gonna get a 7 as well. Darkrai gets a 9. Shaman is gonna get a 6 from me. Arceus gets a 7. Gets a 7. You know what? Let's bump it up to 8. And Victini gets a 7. Well, that's it for the Gen 4 rankings. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to comment your number 10s below. Which Pokemon in Generation 4 gets a 10 from you? What is your least favorite Pokemon? Or, you know, if you have more than one, let me know. What Pokemon did you rediscover in Hisui? Because for me it was several, actually. Frostlass I really got to play around with again, and I really liked having her on my team. Infernape and Empoleon, I really liked having them on my team again as well. And there were others, especially the Hisui versions or forms of some of the Pokemon that they brought in with Legends Arceus. I also really liked the quest to discover Spiritomb, where you had to go collect all the spirit pieces. That was really cool. So yeah, definitely had a newfound love for Sinnoh whenever Legends Arceus came out. I know it's the ancient version of Sinnoh, so it's not technically the same, but it kind of is, so yeah, tomato, I guess, whatever. As always, don't come for me in the comments. These are my personal opinions and my thoughts. Let me know what your rankings are, though. Show me in the comments. Tell me who's your favorites, who's your least favorites. I want to know. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate your support here on the channel, and I hope you will continue to watch my videos. You can subscribe to the channel for free, show your support here. You can also leave a like down below if you have not done that already. Just watching it this far is also supporting the channel, so thank you so much for that. If you would like to catch my other videos, then you can hit that notification bell so you'll get notified when I do upload new videos to the channel, so you won't miss a single thing that I post here on YouTube. I will see you guys on the next video, and I'll see you back whenever we rank Generation 5 in the next video of this particular series. But until then, bye!